it's so funny you brought that up. My husband was just like, "Hey, you guys should talk about that," because he's like, I'm pretty sure they're gonna want to talk about it because it's like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So my interpretation on this was I didn't actually watch the clip because I didn't have a chance to today, but I wasn't sure what he did. But that's out of character. Like I feel like he's not somebody who I've ever seen in that capacity. Like he's
Exactly.
never
Yeah.
had that kind of altercation. So I know it must have been sensitive and hit a nerve because I know that his relationship, they're like in an open relationship. I mean, the book, my husband just read it and he said, you should read it. So it's on my next to read
Who
will.
was that?
Um,
Jada Pinkett's book. Whose
no,
book?
it's his,
It's
like
his book.
Oh,
Well,
his
his
book.
story, but they talk about how extensively they've used therapy and what, for what reasons. And I think that some of it was just, communicating the need for them to have like their open relationship without being, you know, judge and putting it out there. So I don't know. The only thing that tells me is someone like him that I've never seen in a public forum
yeah.
behave in that way
Uh huh.
tells me what was said may have had a personal connection there. Maybe it was some sort of like direct thing. I don't know if there's a connection to him and Jada, and that could be why. Because I know recently there was some issue with him sharing. Her Jada had voiced her affair on live TV,
Right.
and so I know that he had an emotional response to that, which obviously for a man with his like background, with his like the persona, right? The whole Fresh Prince thing, he like crying is a pretty important way to express that. Could tell you it hurt him. So I think um, maybe it was just a sensitive thing about that, and he took it out on him because he happened to be there and he said it. I mean, he slapped him, which is interesting. He didn't punch him.
Yeah, I know.
So I don't know. What's your take on that? I
Well, they said
think
I think they were saying that open hands not assault in some states. So maybe he knew. Maybe he knew his rights.
Maybe news laws.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Um.
I almost
But
feel
that
like
made you think he like he kind of planned it, or just like I thought it was a prank. I was
I
like,
thought it was a
this
prank
can't
first.
be real.
Um, I thought it was a prank at first,
Hmm.
but when he was like sat down and he was like, yeah, keep my wife's effing name out of your mouth. I was like, oh, yeah. He said,
serious.
so I was like, yeah,
So
yeah.
what did he say? Is what I'm curious to know.
Well, he said he was making a joke like Jada Pickett could be
In G.I. Jane
G.I.
too.
Jane, yeah, Jane too. If they come up with
Hmm.
that, you definitely got it.
He was like, "Yeah,
Oh,
hey Jada, you looking nice? Good to see you. Can't wait to see G.I. Jane Part 2.
because she's like pretty cut, like works out like that for that reason.
Nah, because she has
No.
she has
Because
a
her
disease.
because her hair is as low as mine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause
she has a
then-
disease called what is it called?
Yeah, but the movie was really
Asphyxia?
just about
Huh?
Demi Moore when she
Oh,
cut her hair
alopecia
when she
Alopecia?
was
areata.
Alopecia, yeah.
Yeah.
So she has that, and
It's
that's
balding,
why.
yeah.
And you got to factor
Oh,
in if a man is sensitive about their hair, a woman is not supposed to lose their hair. It's like, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
think about it for that. And
absolutely.
she's been vulnerable about it.
Now, when I watched the clip, Reggie doesn't agree with me on this one. When I watched the clip, I saw him laugh at first, but Jada wasn't laughing.
I said he was laughing because Will Smith can take one of the, take it with the best of them. He's just giggling. And here's the thing. He didn't make it, it was not offensive. He was like, no, it was a nice one. He was like, G.I. Jane 2, and that's where he left it. That's where Chris Rock left it.
But it was
he
almost
res-
like
but he-
like
But he responded to his woman. Like
Like
the
Jay-
woman has your woman, they're old school, traditional in a sense.
About to say,
Traditional.
there's
He
nothing
is
traditional
like
about
no.
that,
I'm
too.
saying as far as Will's like I'm gonna protect my
For their
wife.
their reality, their
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
their
exactly.
norm. Yeah,
So it's like I'm
that's
gonna
their
defend my
tradition.
wife, honor. So basically, he saw Jada was pissed, just like he didn't attend the Academy Awards before because Jada said it was racist, so he stayed home with his wife. So at the end of the day, that's how they support each other.
you sure she didn't say you ain't like Tupac. You ain't hard enough for me.
I've got two takes. It's either one, Jada's health situation is a little worse than they're sharing. And maybe that's why that hit home as hard as it did.
That could be.
So that was one theory. And the second theory is I just feel like Chris took the brunt of the public drag that Will has been through with Jada in the last year or two is kind of how I feel about it. And I might
That's
be
true.
wrong about that.
Yeah, he's
but,
been
you
getting it.
And the truth is, the circumstances involved is something that they agree to. I mean, it's still tough to have these conversations and have your life unfold in front of the world.
Yeah.
But it just, that joke, from an outsider looking in, didn't really warrant the response. So there's got to be something else there.
Yeah, it was a lot deeper because
That was a light joke, too.
we've always seen Will Smith, like Puja said, we've always seen him. You know, all the shows, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, great actor, always inspirational as well.
Agreed.
And for him to like, he actually thought about it because, like I said, from my vantage point, I saw him laugh, but then the camera went to Jada. Jada was like, you know, it was almost like she said, like watching John Q. Do something, John.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's right.
Yeah.
You know, that's my lady. So, but then, you know, I thought he would have probably talked to him after, like anybody else would do. I don't think anybody.
Well, here's the thing: we don't know if they talked to each other after. We don't know if he contacted him after. We just know
But it
he
doesn't
apologized
matter.
to Academy.
It doesn't matter now. It wouldn't matter to me. You just slap me. Why I want to talk to you later for?
Well, you just
Yeah,
said that.
No,
Right, you just mentioned it.
no. What I'm saying is, I would have talked to him later, and versus going slapping him first and then talking to him later.
So that's probably what took place. We don't know.
Or like, the slap was sort of an impulsive thing. He might have an issue with impulsivity. A lot of artists tend to have very neurodivergent minds, right? So part of that, like I'd pointed out, one of the things is social skills is very impaired, how you respond. Like you can't control sometimes like what may be that trigger that you don't, your brain doesn't have the
Yeah.
brakes. It just, your brain's moving faster. It's telling your head, just do this because that's what I feel like doing right now. But the brakes on that, there's a
I
common
don't know,
metaphor.
Puja. He held that hand kind of long. When you see
Yeah,
the video,
I didn't see this. I have to watch
You
this.
get a
And
chance,
You gotta
go,
watch
you
it.
watch it. Like,
You gotta
I mean,
watch it.
it wasn't like a child. Nah, he kind of brought it back, and it felt like it hung
Yeah.
around for a little bit, and then he let it fly.
I mean, I think it's kind of messed up. Well, not kind of. It is. Anytime you talk about health issues, right? Like, I didn't even get the joke. I was like, what? Because she's so in shape. That's how I took it.
Oh, yeah,
Because,
No, it's
you
just
know,
because
I didn't know either.
Demi Moore shaves her head in the movie.
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
right.
the
I saw
guys.
that, yeah.
That was just the gist, you know.
But I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know she had a issue like that either. I had no clue that
Yeah.
she
Yeah, I
had.
mean, it could just be, that's alopecia areata is usually just it's a broader symptom of like other autoimmune conditions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, she could have lupus. She could have cancer. We don't know. And if it's lupus, is autoimmune conditions affect women a lot, and that's one of the things that happens. So I think, and especially as far as I'm concerned, a lot of like Black indigenous women of color are very, very, I think, self-conscious about the hair because there's always this like, you have to have it straight. You have to have it, like it to fit in, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm seeing this now where everyone's like embracing their hair and their, the way it is. I want to with mine. So I just like, it's like a frizzy, mess. But the point being, I can't
didn't
even compare
notice.
it to, right? Like it's relative. I used to have like, for example, if you look at it from my point of view, I used to have a lot more hair and it was thicker and healthier. And over time, as you age, life happens, stress, like environmental things that happen in your body, you start to lose it. So yeah, someone who's like, conscious of it. But when you have someone who's struggling with a serious health condition, we don't know. It's her right to have privacy. It could be more than, just balding, and it's in poor taste. Why bring that up? It just doesn't seem like a thing. But yes, I don't know if Will Smith should have necessarily deserved a smack. But I think a smack versus a punch is more of like, for lack of a better term again, I just bitch slapped you,
That's what I'm
right?
saying,
Like,
punked
how are you
you.
going to do that?
Actually,
Like, that's
as
what
a
maybe
dude,
Jada
I
would have
think-
done.
I think
man
as
wanna
a dude,
punch.
you take the
Yeah.
punch a little better. When you get slapped, you're like, oh, hell no. Did this dude just slap me? Like,
If you know Will
Somebody
Smith,
gotta
it's,
die.
that's like Will Smith's
Somebody gotta
style. If you know
die.
Will Smith, that's his
I
style.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But do you think so? I heard he just like Chris Rock just sort of finished the announcement and just kept going like nothing happened.
No,
he
he paused for a second. He was like, "Really? I just got punched. I got slapped by Will Smith." And then he made a comment and said, "This is the best. This is the best TV ever."
Yeah.
Oh,
So
yeah.
but he was taken back for a minute. Like he had to really.
Nah, he was shook for a while.
He was.
He was stuttering.
Yeah.
He was
He taken back for a minute.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
I don't
that's
know. I'm
good
surprised Jada
showmanship,
didn't go up
though.
there. And,
To,
No,
like,
it does.
smack
It does. He definitely kept his professionalism.
Yeah, his composure, like to get slapped.
yeah.
I don't know if he.
Yeah.
on front stage and still maintain and keep it going. Like,
I think he had no choice. I mean,
I mean, he had
what
no
was he
choice.
gonna do?
Nobody,
Well, he could have walked off. He
nobody
got
prepares
assaulted.
to get slapped on national television.
He was assaulted. He could have walked off.
or hit him back, which he didn't.
Yeah.
So that right there is what tells me he had the filter in that moment to be like, hold on, I'm doing something else. Like he could compartmentalize the situation, right? Whereas Will Smith probably just got so emotionally like dysregulated from it because A, he probably thought it was funny, got in trouble for laughing at it, and then probably was like, you know what, no, it's not okay. Because I think that A, it was probably poor taste to make fun of any kind of disorder, and I think
Yeah.
that's what maybe alluded to. But yeah, especially like um, his wife who's there, and so I think that he probably reacted out of personal like I'm not going to be able to compartmentalize this. Um, but he could have also made a joke and used his wit to get back at him, you know?
But
Agree.
do we know
Um,
if Chris Rock knew the condition of Jada Pinkett?
I'm sure he did.
Oh, I didn't know about it.
They're in Hollywood. They know about it, man.
You can't assume that.
Nah, if you're a comedian, they do the most research, man. They're one of the most brilliant minds. They
I
know
don't know.
they
I
know
think you're
about the
giving a
topics
lot
and
of
subjects they
credit.
talk about.
I
Nah,
think you have to care about someone or something to like invest time and energy into it.
I think he's a
Right?
person. They were in the front row, and he looks and he just goes because that's how he is.
So that first off, we're acting like this doesn't happen at every other award show. Like this is what happens. Like
Yeah,
people
but he-
go there, you get roasted on whether it's your weight, whether it's some type of scandal that's happening in the news, whether it's something what you're wearing. Like this is par for the course. Was it in bad taste? Absolutely. I'm not this. I'm not going to argue that. But to act like what Chris Rock did was like so far outside of the realm of what normally happens at these shows.
it wasn't.
If anybody was out of the norm, it was Will. I mean, out of
Right.
character,
Yes.
out of place, and really, he's lucky Chris Rock didn't take it to a place where he's like, I'm gonna press charges, because then that's a whole nother avenue, like a whole nother set of issue that we're dealing with right there. So
Yeah. But
But,
we also don't know, if they like had some other deeper issue
Well, they
before
had
the
beef
show
before.
came up. Right. Oh, they did. See, yeah, I didn't
Yep.
know that, but I'm assuming they did. There had to be something personal there, a connection to Jada, somewhere. So,
No, they definitely had some beef from what I've heard. Back in the past with the other Academy Award that he hosted, so he was just a presenter on this one. So there was definitely some beef.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, because I can't imagine what would drive someone like Will Smith, who's been in the media, has had a lot of weird. He's been tell all in his book, so there's nothing that should have surprised him. So I wonder what happened.
I might get his book now because of this.
Yeah,
Oh,
my husband
really?
loved it. He's put it on my next to queue to read. He's like, "You should read this." I was like, "Okay, done." But
funny,
they're
I-
very open.
I'm anticipating more of a negative blowback than a positive one, to be honest with you, as far as Will. I mean, even with it being out of character, and I love Will, and personally, I'm like, wow, I can't believe you just slapped Chris Rock. This is gonna go down in history. When we look at like what happened in 2010 or 2020, like a decade of highlights, this is gonna be one of them. But I think it's not gonna trend favorably.
Well, they're gonna have security now for sure in that front row.
They're gonna have a lot of protocol now. Yeah, protocols, and they're gonna probably say, "Hey, no violence." They're gonna state that, and probably the jokes are gonna tone down. Let's be fair here. You go to these Academy Awards. If you're a serious actor, I mean, it's all considered a roast. They're roasting the shit out of you, and if you had a tough year like Will Smith, or past couple years with your personal life going out for people to make fun of, yeah, it's gonna push buttons, and he's there, and that was the second joke made about his wife, because the first one was like, "Oh, Jada, you married? Oh yeah, Jada,
First off, let's
Regina
be
Hall."
fair. If we're being fair, who put Will on Front Street? It wasn't Chris Rock. If Will is
Oh,
feeling
yeah, it's
some
Will Smith.
kind
Yeah,
of
I know,
way
it's Will
about
Smith.
his last
His
year
wife,
or
his
2
wife.
years,
It's his wife.
He needs to take that up with his wife.
Oh,
Which,
I
by
get
the
you.
way, when Will is out doing his thing, because
Yeah.
I understand it goes both ways.
It's open, right?
It's
Both
open,
ways.
right? So you know what? The same way, Jada's got to eat crow when Will is in love for the 5th or 6th time. It's the same way Will's got to eat it. So I get all of that. I'm just saying, at the end of the day, to walk up on stage and slap somebody is just, not only is it out of character, it's in poor taste. They were both in poor taste last night.
It's violence. And I mean, I wonder then to an extent, like how much of this was about him and his ego, right? And being like, all right, like I've been put through the ringer. People have laughed at me because I cried or I got called, X, Y, and Z for showing emotion. When certain things were, out in the open in a public forum. And, imagine if you're like behind closed doors ever to hear from your spouse, whether or not it goes both ways, like it's still a hurtful thing because there's open relationships and there's different varied levels of it, but emotionally they're very, I think they're like an emotionally monogamous couple who have like outside, I think is how I understand it, different from polyamory where you have multiple emotional connections. So we have to understand what's their definition of cheating, because sex could be sex, but when it
Yeah.
comes to communication and our connection, that is what makes our relationship still like work, is that we have emotional trust and focus. We got each other when it comes to those needs. But the rest is just kind of part of the lifestyle that they've agreed on, and that's fine. So maybe this was also more about him feeling betrayed that it came up the way it did,
Right.
and imagine processing that
And
behind
there was
closed
an
doors.
emotional component too with one of them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it could be an ego thing where it just finally was like, if not for his wife, could also be looked at. Hey, he was just trying to be like, all right, you're not going to keep like punking me and think that there's no repercussions. But regardless,
Yeah.
that is not a way to handle it, right? There's ways to handle confrontation using your words
Yeah.
or actions that don't need to feed this, because you just kind of gave Chris Rock a little bit more like sympathy from others, if anything. And he just looks like, well, look, he took that and kind of went in stride. We don't know what happened, but
Yeah.
so that tells me it was a very impulsive. He was not able to control his like what he was doing. The filters weren't there, and that could
So
be reason in depressed emotional state. I don't know.
so saying that, I'm going to bring up something Ray mentioned earlier. Do we believe that still happens if somebody else cracks that same joke? And I don't know if it does. So maybe Chris Rock is like the trigger. I don't know, but like had that joke
But
come from someone else, is Will gonna let it fly like that?
Well,
it would have been
they
a
got a
female. What
history.
if it was
Exactly.
female? Right. Well, what if it's a
Exactly.
female presentation, right? Presenter who maybe he has connections to had been making jokes about her. How would that have gone
Right.
down?
Yeah, but
Um, I don't
well,
know.
there was, and they made a joke, and that's lit. They laughed. He
Mm.
was like, "No, no, no." They were like, "Oh, Will Smith." She was like, Regina Hall was like trying to get all the single guys. She was like, "Oh, Will Smith, you're married." Oh no, never mind. Jada said you can come up here, signed you off, and he was like, "No,
Oh,
no," like that. So, it happened already. He didn't go up there and smack her, but
Watch the
so he
video,
could
Puja.
control
Watch
that.
the video.
but
I need to.